Hello there, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Mark Myers. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to these online sessions. Now, basically, this webinar is created by Success Training Academy to really support you through your Cert 4 in Training and Assessment, your TAE 400116. Now, the purpose of this webinar is to really equip and empower you to be able to successfully prepare for your first presentation. So as part of your TAE, you'll certainly have a bunch of short answer questions that you'll need to complete, some online learning and all of that. However, today specifically, we're going to talk about the delivery cluster, all right? Now, as you would know, the delivery cluster, you would have received this booklet via email when you enrolled, and maybe you even received a physical hard copy, but you would be familiar with this front page here. And don't forget to pop your learner name, your start date, and leave finish date until you actually submit. Okay, but I'm sure that you would have filled out these pages. All right. Now, as part of the delivery cluster, there is a bunch of short answer questions that you'll answer, and then there's some presentations that you will do as well. So as you can see on the screen, this is a short answer questions, and we actually go through the short answer questions in another webinar, so you will be able to check that one out. And in that webinar, I specifically read the question for you and help you understand the best way to answer and approach the question. But let's just skip all the way through that. Okay, and let's come down to the instructions for preparing for your first presentation. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down. I believe it's page 24, okay, that we want to be on. Okay, so now let's check this out. So this page here, so as part of your TAE, when you come along to either your face-to-face course with Success Training Academy, whether you do it live with us or whether you do it via virtual video recording. So just dependent on what you've enrolled in, you may have enrolled in a face-to-face version or a virtual version. Either are fine, and the requirements for what I'm going to explain are going to be exactly the same, okay? Now, as part of your course, you'll be required to do 3 training sessions, okay, 3. Now, as part of your, I guess, course that you attend with us in that actual live course or the virtual course, you will have the opportunity to perform one of your presentations and actually get feedback from your participants and actually be assessed by a qualified assessor from Success Training Academy. The other 2 presentations that you do, you will need to record them and send them into Success Training Academy for a qualified assessor to actually mark them. Okay, so what I'm going to explain to you now is how you can be best prepared for your first session. Okay, now the first session that you do will be with Success Training Academy participants, and what I highly recommend that you do is read through the following pages that I'm going to go through in depth and in detail. And before coming along, you need to have prepared a presentation. So what does that mean? What does that sound like? Well, basically, I'm going to go through the requirements now, and then I'm going to show you an example of a PowerPoint that I just put together that would meet those requirements. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do the presentation for you, but I'm just going to show you what some of the slides may look like and just walk you through things so that by the time you come to actually coming to the face-to-face course or the virtual online course, you will have the confidence to be able to deliver your first presentation and you'll be totally comfortable with doing that. Okay, so let's check it out. So assessment task 5.2, 5.3, 5.4. Okay, so 5.2 is your first presentation. Okay, now 5.3.5.4 is the other 2 presentations. Okay, so what you need to do for each of your presentations is the following. You need to document your preparation for the session, include notes on who you confirmed your role and responsibilities with, how you confirm the availability of materials and resources, and any identified constraints. Okay, record what documentation you referred to. Okay, WHS documents, legislation, policy, procedures. Now, these things can be done on just a separate Word document. That's totally fine. Okay, document any identified needs or requirements of your learners. Again, that can be on a separate Word document. Okay, prepare a session plan. Now, this is the critical part, and we've actually got an example session plan for you coming up just in a moment. Okay, now then we've got prepare a presentation resource for your learners. Okay, PowerPoint, chart, things that you write on the whiteboard. Okay, number 6, ensure your learners complete an attendance sheet. And we've got an example attendance sheet and the one that you'll be able to use to get your attendees to fill out. Okay, deliver the session. Absolutely. Okay, conduct a review. You'll be required to do a self-review of each of your sessions, actually. Okay, so when you actually submit, you will need to submit a copy of the session plan, the ones that are provided below, copies of any training resources. So a training resource would be things like, just as mentioned, a handout or a digital presentation, or let's say any links to videos, things like that. Okay, feedback forms. Now these are critical. You're going to need 8 feedback forms for every presentation. Okay, there must be 8 participants in each of your presentations. Okay, excellent. All right, so coming down, looking at your first training session. Now, a first training session, we are looking for you to deliver a presentation or piece of content that runs for 40 minutes. Okay, so it must go for a period of 40 minutes. Okay, and this is for a simulated group. Okay, now these people are enthusiastic, they're keen to learn, except one individual who has been required to do the session again due to being not yet satisfactory the first time. And they come from a variety of trade backgrounds, plus 2 students who work in administration officer and don't have a trade. They are made up of a variety of ages and gender, including one person who plans to retire this year. Okay, that's an interesting variable to deal with there. Okay, and then it says you are required to fill out this session plan in accordance with your proposed session content and deliver the session. Okay, now, some of the topics that we suggest that you may talk about are listed here below. Okay, so how to fill out a timesheet, how to alert personnel of an emergency, how to identify and deal with hypothermia, okay, how to apply a snake bite dressing, how to assess risks, how to complete a take 5, how to identify a hazard in your office, and what to do about it. Okay, so you can see here that the topics that we've suggested are quite broad and they're quite generic. Now, you can do any topic at all that you would like to, okay? But ideally, we're looking for it to relate to an office type environment, okay? Or something that would be related to, I guess, people from all walks of life, or the people that are listed here would be able to relate to. Okay, now here it says unit code and title. All right, unit code and title. So let me just bring something up for us. Okay, so when it says unit code and title, it's looking for us to go to this website, training.gov.au. Okay, and it's looking for us to go to this site and pick out a unit of competency. Okay, so hypothetically, let's say that we were going to pick something like, earlier you mentioned a snake bite. Okay, so we could type in snake here and let's see what comes up. All right, let's see. All right, prepare. Oh, okay, so we got prepare for and provide initial first aid for a snake bite. Well, that's quite interesting. So we could click on that and we could type in that as the title of the unit that we're going to do. All right, now let's come back here again and let's go back to the home page. Okay, now let's try something else. So it was an office environment. So let's type in the words safety. All right, let's see what comes up when we type in safety. All right, so we've got lots of things that relate to safety. So we've got apply aircraft safety procedures, apply food and fast-moving water safety techniques, administer a local public safety group. All right, now all we're looking for you to do is come to this section and type in a keyword that you can think of. All right, so let's type in the word business and see what comes up when we type that in. All right. All right, so again, we want to click on units of competency, and we can scroll through and find something that may be of interest to us. So we've got analyze business performance. All right, that could be a good one. Let's go back and let's say that we wanted to pick something like operating a computer. So we could type in the word computer and let's see what comes up. Okay, so again, we're going to click on units of competency. And we are going to scroll through and check out what's available. Now, if you get stuck on finding a unit of competency, that's fine. What you can actually do is contact the office and they will help you out with that, okay? Now, let me just come back to this screen. All right, so what you'll be able to do is contact the office. So in here, you'd put the unit code and then the unit type. Okay, now, if you get stuck, contact the office and we'll help you out with it. Having said that, what you can also do is pick your topic, and then when you come to actually speaking to your trainer at the workshop, they will be able to help you find a unit of competency that relates to the topic that you're going to talk about. Okay, so let's say that you're really passionate about, let's say, fire evacuation, okay? And you go on to training.gov.au and you can't find the exact unit you're looking for, that's fine. The trainer will probably help you out finding the unit that you might be needing to find that perfectly relates, okay? So don't get too stuck on the unit that you put in here. Have a look on training.gov.au, and if you find something, fantastic. If you don't, that's okay, just leave it until the day, okay? And that is just part of the vet industry, being able to navigate training.gov.au. And if you're unsure, we have a lot of other webinars that go through and touch on training.gov.au as well. All right. So scrolling down a bit further, we're now going to look at our audience. All right, so here it says describe your students' learner potential characteristics. Now this section here, we're gonna make it up a little bit, or we're gonna expand creatively, put it that way, on the details that have been provided to us. Okay, just up here. All right. Okay, so that kind of information, we need to expand on it a little bit creatively and answer in here, okay? Obviously in your own words, and expand as you can, okay? What are 3 ways that you will incorporate or adjust your delivery to cater to your students' learner characteristics, okay? So, for example, it says that one of the learners is close to retirement, okay? So maybe if you're delivering let's say a IT focused session, maybe you would need to be aware that that individual may not have that much experience using computers, and that you may need to allow extra time for that individual, and maybe even need to let's say set up a tutorial session for that person afterwards or even beforehand to give them extra time to practice. Let's say let's go, what else? Maybe you got a couple of learners that are really strong kinesthetic learners and they love to do activities, okay? And in that case, you may want to include some role plays and some games, okay? So that could be another way to adjust your delivery, okay? So there's a number of different things that you could pop in there, okay? So next thing we're coming down to is the safety requirements, okay? Now, part 1, it says conduct the inspection of your training environment for your session delivery, okay? Now, if you are delivering this in a virtual online environment, then you could certainly do an inspection of the room that you are delivering the virtual session in. That's totally fine. if you are joining us for a face-to-face workshop, and you are going to be physically in the classroom, you could certainly wait to do this checklist until you get to the classroom. Otherwise, you could contact the Contact Success Training Academy office and just ask them some questions. However, the key thing is that you do a safety inspection, all right? And you need to identify at least one hazard and how it will be dealt with, okay? So you're going to go through here and you're going to tick yes or no for each of these things, okay? So you may do this on day one when you first arrive at STA campus, or you may look at your office and the place that you're delivering your virtual sessions in and just go ahead, tick yes or no to each of the following. And coming down here, the critical thing that we're really looking for is risks identified and proposed control measures. So maybe up here you ticked no for one of the items. All right? Maybe you ticked that there's cords on the floor. All right. So maybe the risk would be you could put in there that the hazard is trip on cords. The risk is that somebody falls on their face or gets injured. Okay. Then the measure would be to take the cords down. Okay, so in here we want to identify the hazard and the risk, what's the problem, what could go wrong, and the measure, i.e. how we're going to prevent any accidents happening. Okay, it could be risk is a lighting issue. So for example, maybe the lighting isn't strong enough. So maybe the risk is damaged or visual impairment or damage to eyes, right? So the measure could be inserts or new lights, okay? Maybe if you're operating online, maybe there is maybe there's a broken chair in the classroom, okay? So the risk would be somebody falling off the chair or hurting themselves, falling on the floor, okay? So the measure would be replace the chair. Okay, so lots of different ideas that you can pop into this safety section. Make sure trainer, make sure you put your name, sign it, and put the date, okay? So scrolling down, now we want to obtain a copy of the evacuation procedures for your proposed venue or venues, okay? Now, if you are doing this at Success Training Academy campus, you will be able to grab a copy of the evacuation procedures and attach it. Okay. If you're doing it from your office and you work at a company, well, you can attach those. Okay. So then you want to list the 6 steps that you would mention to your learners in order to ensure a safe evacuation in the case of an emergency. Okay. So these could be things like if you hear the alarm, stop work and follow the following guidelines in order to leave the building, help other people, all those kind of things. Okay. All right. So you want to attach that for sure. Okay. So now this here is an example session plan. So as part of your sessions that you deliver, you are going to be required to put together a session plan, okay? So what we've actually done here is provided you with a complete and thorough session plan. So if we take a look at this, you will pretty much know exactly what you need to do for your session plan, okay? So the session name, you got prepare to remove and replace wheel and tire assemblies, okay? Then it even states element 1 of unit of competency. All right, it's beautifully well said. Learning outcomes. At the conclusion, you will have this knowledge and skills to prepare, remove and replace wheel and tire assemblies, okay? So this is a bit of an example. So trainer, trainer's name, assessor name. Okay, so this is where you would put your details. Okay, RTO, Success Training Academy, role, position, okay, and all of that. Okay, so you could pretty much leave that, you can put that in, you can leave that blank and that blank. Okay, now Constraints identified assessment, okay, so you can make this up, but there may be some, there may be none. But what are any impediments to the training session happening smoothly? Okay, so maybe it's a venue issue, maybe it's an issue with the attendees, maybe it's a timing issue, okay? Group, this is where you would explain the characteristics of the learners a little bit. Okay, special needs student, maybe there are some, maybe there are none, but we definitely want to include any special needs such as language literacy and numeracy or anything like that. Now, in here, you want to be very careful not to put NA, okay? So you may put something like, there are no special needs identified, or there are no constraints identified. That's okay, okay? But you cannot put NA for any items, okay? It's very important that you always put a reason for any details that you put in. So you may put, there are no special needs students identified, so no extra considerations need to be made, okay? It's very important that you always explain out anything that you put in here. Okay, so WHS, ensure a safe working environment, conduct a VHS inspection as per venue requirements. You can even put C attached inspection form. Okay, TGA reference, basically this is the unit of competency that you are teaching from. Okay, duration of plan or session, it's going to be 40 minutes. Okay, each of your sessions is going to go for 40 minutes long. Okay, now here we've got a very streamlined session plan that pretty much walks you through everything, all right? So we've got the content, all right? It's pretty much going to be the same for every session you do. Resources required notes, okay? We've got a bit of a brainstorming section, okay? So what you would cover in the brainstorming. Let's see, okay. So this is marking on the whiteboard. All right, now up here we're going to put some of the resources that would be required. So this is what you're going to cover it, how you're going to cover it, and this is how you're going to gauge the learning, okay? So coming down, this is a really important part. We got a group activity, practical, where they actually practice changing the tyre, okay? And then we've also included here what resources would be required. So here it says literally vehicle and car park, okay? And then at the end, we've got section for handing out the feedback form, all right? So scrolling down, we've got a bit of a self-assessment going on, okay? So, all good. All right. So now we've got an actual session plan for you to work with and for you to map out your session. Okay. So what I now want to do is show you an example PowerPoint that I just whipped together that again would be another example, just like this session plan. So that really runs you through a structure that you could use for a completely different topic. Okay, so let's see what I've got to show you. Okay, here we go. So hopefully you can see that on my screen. All right, so let me. All right, let me just show you on this screen here. And hopefully you can see it okay. So this topic is just about performance reviews and management, okay? Performance management. So I just quickly whipped this together and you could pretty much imagine that this was a generic presentation for pretty much any topic, but I want to show you the key components that I've gone through as I've done it. Right? So this would be what we've called a title slide, and you could insert the logo of your company here. Okay, then we've got a bit of a fun video that we play, and is just to break the ice, okay? So this is just a video that I took from YouTube, which is about a performance review that goes badly, all right? So that's just something that you can insert at the beginning of your presentation, just a fun video. And then I popped an agenda in there, okay? So again, you can put in the logo, but you list out what you're covering in the session, okay? Then we've got outcomes of the session. So for example, here at XYZ Company, we are looking to create blah, blah, blah. And these are the reasons why we are talking about today's session, okay? Then we've got the icebreaker. So for example, go meet a classmate, discuss the following. As a manager, what do your staff do that gives you the most satisfaction? Who is one staff member that you have worked with that really turned their performance around, and how did it happen? So in terms of the icebreaker, what we're looking to do is create a really positive atmosphere and get people comfortable talking to each other. Okay, so let's just recap. So far, we've got a title slide. Got a bit of a funny thing. You don't have to have the funny thing. It's totally up to you, right? Then we've got an agenda. In between here, somewhere, you may even have the housekeeping and safety aspects, for sure, all right? Then we've got the outcomes and why we're doing the session, okay? Now, again, we've got the icebreaker, okay? Now, then we're gonna go into what is the topic? What are we actually talking about, okay? So we do want to follow a particular structure. It's the structure of why we're doing what we're doing, what are we doing, and then how we're going to use that information, and then a bit of an activity, and then a bit of a recap, all right? So next slide, we've got what happens if we don't do, in this case, a performance management or performance review, okay? Then we've got what are the benefits for everyone? And then we want to paint out the benefits. What are the benefits for managers? Okay. And then you can go ahead and list all the benefits. Okay. And then we go through the steps on how to do the task. Okay. And then we can talk about, well, in an actual performance management situation, what key phrases would we use? And you could pop on the slide some key phrases and some key language that you could use, okay? And then we can do that for each step, okay, key phrases, okay, then a bit of a review, okay, key phrases for the last step, okay, what to avoid saying. I just put these in as some ideas. All right. Activity, all right. Now this is where you would do an activity with the learners. So you would actually get them in groups and they would practice doing a performance management role play, okay? And then you would give them feedback, okay? And then they would swap partners and doing it with someone else, okay? And the practical side is critically important, okay? Then you would want to do a bit of a debrief after the role play, okay? Then you talk about 6 things that could go wrong, or even a couple of things that could go wrong, okay? And in a case of emergency, do the following, okay? Going forward, please do the following, okay? What's going to happen after the training session? Then you want to ask them, does anyone have any questions? And then say, do a summary of the session, and then say, thank you for coming, okay? So basically, you can use this structure for any topic at all. So we could do the entire same structure for changing a tire and training someone to do that, okay? So again, we'd have the title slide, we'd have a bit of a funny video, we'd have the agenda, we'd have the outcomes, we'd have the icebreaker, and in here also we're going to chuck in our self-intro as trainer, okay? So who you are, why you're doing it, and all of that, okay? Then you have what is the topic, what happens if we don't talk about the topic, benefits for people, benefits for other people, okay? They list out the benefits, list out the steps, and then have a practice activity or a doing thing where you have the opportunity for students to prepare and practice the task, okay? So feel free to re-watch this webinar a number of times, but ultimately what we are looking for you to do, and I'm just going to go back to the other screen that I had, okay, is we're looking for you to flesh out this session plan, okay? So when you have written up the session plan, then you can create your PowerPoints and just ask yourself, okay, cool, what topic am I going to teach? Now, maybe let's pick a topic that is a little bit out there, say, um, let's say putting on your, let's go childcare centre, all right? And maybe it's about changing a nappy, okay? So in that case, it's going to be pretty much the same structure. It's, okay, what's the topic? Changing a nappy, okay? And then you ask yourself, okay, what does somebody need to know in order to be able to change a nappy effectively? Okay, you list out the steps, maybe there's some policies and procedures around that, and then there's going to be an activity where they practice doing that, and then when you as a trainer provide them some feedback, and maybe they have a little bit of an assessment as well. Okay, now if you're doing things in a virtual environment, you can certainly set up role plays as well, and anything is possible in a virtual environment as well. Okay, so I just want you to keep the structure in mind as you do it, and if you have any concerns as to how you would approach different things and teach different things, just let us know. Send us a message and we're more than happy to help you out. However, we really want you to be able to look at the session plan example that we've given you up here. Okay, this one here. And we want you to have this filled out before you come along to your class, your face-to-face workshop or your virtual class, and have this filled out and have a think about your PowerPoint and starting to put that together. And then as you come along to class, you're going to probably learn some things and you'll be able to make some adjustments to what you put together. But the first step is think, okay, what am I going to teach for my first session? And how can I make it as engaging and interactive as possible with my learners, okay? So if you're unsure, just rewatch this webinar a number of times, but know that as long as everything's filled out in this session plan and you make it engaging, interactive, and you have some kind of digital resource, you're probably going to do a very successful session, okay? So hope this webinar has been helpful. Hope everything has made sense. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to send an email to your trainer beforehand. Otherwise, come along excited, ready to go with an open mind, and your trainer will be able to help you out as much as possible. But know coming to the course that you will be required to have one presentation ready to go. And hopefully through watching this webinar, you now have the knowledge, the skills and the structure to be able to put it together, okay? Hope that's been helpful, and we wish you the very best and good luck with all of your assessments.